Well, Interstate 70 and the Glenwood Springs area in Colorado remains closed for the foreseeable future. Welcome back to another episode of Travel News for Nomads. I'm your host, Robert Witham, and I scour the news for stories of interest to lifestyle travelers, snowbirds, and those who love the great outdoors, so you don't have to. Do you know of a story that might be of interest? Will you please email that to me at robert.witham@gmail.com. And thank you to everyone who has already sent stories. It really does help me stay on top of things. So I mentioned in a news video yesterday how Interstate 70 near Glenwood Springs in Colorado had been closed because of mudslides this past week, and looks now like it's going to remain closed for the foreseeable future. Colorado DOT has not yet provided any indication of when the interstate will be reopened to traffic. That damage from a series of mudslides last week has been described by DOT officials as extreme. Colorado DOT is also reporting damage to the viaduct structure unlike anything they had seen before. So that's a pretty big deal as far as damage from these mudslides with large rocks and trees and everything else included. A recent statement from Colorado DOT said that CDOT crews are assessing damage and continue to clear debris and mud flow when weather conditions are safe. Motorists are recommended to use the alternative northern route. For trucks planning to travel through Colorado, CDOT recommends they take Interstate 80 through Wyoming. If you ever travel through this region, 80 and 70 are nowhere close to each other. So either way, that would take the passenger car route or the truck route, it's a significant detour. The northern detour for automobiles takes US 40 through Steamboat Springs. This detour adds at least 2 hours compared to traveling across I-70. Google Maps estimates that the detour between Silverthorne and Rifle, which is in the section in the middle there, is closed, but there's limited roads through the mountains, so you got to go where you can. And so you basically have to detour between Silverthorne and Rifle in the west, Silverthorne in the east, Rifle in the west, and then it goes up to the north through Steamboat Springs and Craig, Colorado. Well, that detour is 220 miles, and according to Google Maps estimate, would take 3 hours and 55 minutes. Apple Maps estimates the detour at 220 miles and 3 hours and 58 minutes. So my experience is that it always takes me longer to do a trip than whatever the estimates are, whether Google Maps, Apple Maps, my Garmin GPS. It always takes longer than what they estimate, for me at least. So if they're saying it's going to take 4 hours, I'm going to figure 5 hours anyway. Traveling along I-70 between Silverthorne and Rifle is only 117 miles instead of 220, and it normally takes 2 hours or less. So this detour adds 2 to 3 hours to the trip if you're trying to go east to west across the northern half of Colorado. This closure is significant because a lot of nomads and travelers like to visit the Colorado mountains in the summertime because it's cooler, high elevation, you get cooler temperatures. And as I was saying earlier, when you get out into the west here in particular, there often aren't good alternate routes to avoid the interstate. So if you're out in other parts of the country, you can often take a secondary road and make maybe not quite as fast a time as the interstate, but you get better scenery, a little more leisurely pace and stuff. Well, a lot of places out here in the west, there really aren't other roads. That's the only option. Or if you want to take another road, it's way out of the way. And that's what's happening with this situation, with this indefinite closure of I-70. You're going to add 2 to 3 hours to your trip going through. Rock slides are not uncommon in this canyon, but they have been worse this year due to burn scars from the Grizzly Creek fire in August of last year. And they've just had a ton of rain, back-to-back days, and, a lot of debris slid down and did a lot of damage to the interstate. Well, don't forget, travelers, send me links or details for stories you think might be of interest. You can email those to me at robert.witham@gmail.com. Thank you again to those who have already shared news and links. And also, don't forget to check out my other YouTube channel, Meanderings, for short, relaxing videos featuring some of the best scenery I encountered during my travels. Thanks for joining me in this episode of Travel News for Nomads.